Okay, so we will move further. We will move to named constant concept. Okay. So till now, what we have learned is like concept of identifier and the concept of variable. So now next thing is concept of constants. So actually constants we have discussed already. Constant is a value which will not change during the execution of the program, or we can consider constant is an identifier which stores a value, or constant is a name given to the computer memory location where the value is stored and that value is fixed. Okay. Now coming to this topic, named constant. So first we should know what is constant. So we know what is a constant. Constant is a value which will not change. The named constant means for every constant they will be having some name. See, for example, if we consider all mathematical constants, okay, mathematical or physics, chemistry, whatever you consider. For example, if I say 3.142, so this is a constant. For this, one name is there. That name is nothing but pi. So pi value is 3.142. So similarly, some more constants are present in physics and all, like 9.8. Okay, so this is a constant, and we can consider this as a gravity. Okay, uh, so like that, for every constant in mathematics or physics, especially in science, so we'll be having some names for that. So that is nothing but named constant. Okay, so that means when we talk with respect to computer, that is programming language, their memory location. See, whenever I say memory location, for memory location, if we give the name, then we can store the value in that. Okay, because memory computer memory locations means it's of type addresses. Okay, if you consider RAM, random access memory, so addresses will be there. From address we cannot get the value because it is not so easy to remember the address. So computer knows the address values, but for us we require some name to be given for that address. So if I give the name for that address, then we can call that name as a constant or as a variable depending on the concept. So if the value is changing, then we can call it as a variable. If the value doesn't change, we can call it as a constant. So the memory location whose value cannot be changed during the execution of a program is called as named constant. So when we talk about a constant definition, constant is a value which will not change. Okay. If I say named constant, then you have to refer to memory location. So that is the difference. If you simply say constant, it is a value which will not change. If I say named constant, then refer to some computer memory location. Then we can consider it as a named constant. Okay. So syntax to declare a constant. Okay. 1 minute. Um, so this thing, write it on notepad so that it will be clear for you. The syntax to declare a constant is okay. Before we go to syntax to declare a constant, so let us understand some things. Like if I say a, okay, so this you can consider it as identifier. Okay, that means identifier is a name. So when we write the name, so we are following some rules. Okay, that is blank space is not allowed, special characters except underscore is not allowed, keywords not allowed, and uh, starting character should not be digit. So these are the rules we are following while writing an identifier. Okay. So if you write single letters, that is an identifier, of course. Capital letters, all capital letters and all small letters. If you write single letter, that is an identifier. Now, if I want to make this identifier as a variable, just have to use the data type int a. Then here it becomes the variable. So same a becomes the variable. Okay. Next, if I want to give the value for this, int a is equals to 10. So a is a variable, I have given the value. Next, int a is equals to 10. So I have given the value. But if I want to make this as a constant, then you have to use the keyword called constant. Int is also a keyword. Constant, const is also a keyword. Const keyword means constant. So int, it is a data type. So const is a keyword as well as can call it as a qualifier. Okay, a is equals to 10. So now this value is fixed. If you look at this line int a equals to 10, this value may change during execution because this is just called as a variable, not a constant. Okay, but here this is a constant, and here you don't call it as a variable then constant because both are opposite words. Sometimes what happens if I say what is a constant? Constant is a variable which stores a value and will not change. That is wrong sentence actually because variable and constant both are opposite words. So here what we can call it as is a. You call that as an identifier. Identifier is a general word we can use for variable as well as constant. Okay, you call a as an identifier, but in this case you can call a as a variable. Here don't call a as a variable because constant and variable both are opposite. Okay, you call identifier which is storing some value and that value is not changing, so it is a constant. I hope you people have understood. Identifier which stores some value and that value will not change, so it is a constant. And here a is an identifier which has some value which may change during execution, so it is a variable. Okay. So now if we look at this particular statement, from this we can consider the general form, that is the syntax to declare a constant. So that is nothing but say const is a keyword, we cannot change it, so use as it is. Then this int, it is a data type. Okay, so when I say it is a data type, use that general word, don't use int, use the general word data type. Then here I am calling a as an identifier.
This is Srinivas. Yeah, from the beginning, like you said, syntax to declare a constant. So here a is an identifier, it's say, and
Okay.
int a is a variable. So from that sequence, you can just repeat that. I just
Okay.
got a little lost.
Okay. Fine. So whenever we talk about constants and variables, so general term is identifier. So if I write an identifier is nothing but a just a name given. When I say it is a name, if you leave it as it is, then it is just an identifier. Okay. Now, if you make it as a variable, so if you make it as a variable, then we get the option to store the value. Okay. So same a, if I write along with the data type, then it becomes variable. If you don't write along with the data type, just it is an identifier. If you write along with the data type, it becomes a variable. So when it is a variable, then we have the option to store some value in that. So like int a is equals to 10, I have stored some value. Next, again, after you make it as a variable or if you leave it as an identifier, then even you can store the value. And if you want to make that value as a constant, that means it should not change during the execution of a program. Then make use of this keyword const. It is a keyword used to make this particular identifier as a constant. If we don't use this keyword, then this particular identifier will become a variable. Okay, so whenever you are writing this particular statement here, you don't call a as a variable, because variable and constant both are opposite words. Variation means changing, constant means it is fixed, both are opposite words. So you should not say it like a is a variable which has a value and it is fixed, so it becomes contradictory. So a is an identifier which has a value and it is fixed. In that way we can call it as. So identifier is a general term. For variable also you can call it as an identifier. For constant also you can call it as an identifier. So when you call for variable as a term identifier, then it will be having value which has the option to change. If you give this identifier term for a constant, it will be having value which will not change. Okay, so now we want to write these type of statements, so we have to follow some rules. So that means some syntax. That syntax is, so const is a keyword, you write as it is, it is not changed. Whereas in case of int is a data type, so that general word you use in the syntax, instead of writing int, float, char double, general term is data type, so that you use. Next, a is an identifier, so again here general word use, don't use a in the syntax, use identifier. Then, so this 10 is a value, whether it is integer value, floating point value, anything. So that general word you use here. So const is a keyword, data type, identifier is equals to value. And when you are writing general syntax, that is general form of syntax, please don't write here variable. Const data type variable equals to value, because this variable and this const are opposite words. Const meaning it is fixed, variable meaning it has the option to change. So here instead of writing variable, we will write it as identifier. In case of declaring variable, you can write it as variable. For example, if you want to write the same thing for variable, data type, so variable is equals to value. In this way you can write, or else even you can write identifier equals to value, and also variable equals to, because variable means which will change here. If you are if you are adding this keyword constant in this syntax, then you have to remove this variable word, you have to put identifier word in that. That is the meaning. So this is the general form to declare a named constant. So when we go for this particular thing, so we'll see what is named constant. The memory location whose value cannot be changed during the execution of a program is called named constant. Okay, so const it is called as keyword, as well as it is called as qualifier. Okay, before data type we are going to write that. Okay, then so this is the general form. Remove this. So this is the general form what you can write it for that. Okay, next, coming to the explanation of that general form. The word const, const, is a keyword. So you have to write every letter of this keyword in lowercase letters. That is the rule. Data type can be any basic data type such as int, float, char, double, or even you can write derived data type and user defined data type. But here in this example, I used basic data types. So I have mentioned it as it can be any basic data type such as int, float, char, double. The identifier is name given to this constant. So whatever the constant we are using, for that we are giving the name. And these are the examples what we can consider. Okay. Wait a minute here. So first example, const, it is a keyword. Double, it is a data type. Pi, generally what we do is when we write the constant names, we will write in capital letters. It is not a rule, but just convention, just to make a difference between variable and constant, variable names and constant names. They have made it as a convention to write in capital letters. So P and I have written in capital letters. But according to identifier rules, even if you write in instead of writing capital P, if I write small p, it is valid. It is correct. It will not show any error. Just a habit of writing in capital letters. That's all. Const double pi is equals to 3.142, because 3.142 is a constant which will not change. But in mathematics also, if you write in any problem, this value will be fixed. Okay. Next, so instead of writing any mathematical constant, if I write our own constant, that means which is particular for that particular program, const int no underscore of underscore student. See, this is just by following identifier rules. That is, capital letters are allowed, underscore symbol is allowed, digits at the first place is not allowed, blank space is not allowed. So if I am writing no space of space students, then it is wrong according to identifier rules. Either you combine like this, it is all the letters, or you put underscore in between, then it makes sense. That is valid identifier. So number of students equals to 20. That means, for example, in particular class only 20 students allowed, then you can say number of students equals 20. It is not a fixed constant in either in maths or science, anywhere. Just in our program, if I want to make use of this constant, you can write like this. Okay. So people can write this definition. So definition and syntax and example you can write it. So I will make it as big.